Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu nasalli ala Rasul al-Kareem. Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given every human being born in this world a choice, either to live his life according to the will, according to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to live his life according to his own desires. If a person chooses to live his life according to the will of Allah, then it will lead to success in this life and the next life. And if he chooses to live his life according to his own desires, then it will lead to failure both in this life and in the next life. So Allah Ta'ala has been merciful to his creation by telling them the right way and also telling them the wrong way. People who listen to Allah, they are called Muslims. This one who submit to Allah, submission to Allah is called Islam. And disobedience can be given any name. You can call it whatever name you want to give it, but there are two different ways of spending one's life. And the real purpose of this life is, of course, to be successful forever, which is in paradise, in Jannah. So Islam is a way of life that has been prescribed by Allah for all humanity right from the beginning of times. And human beings have been devising their ways and creating ways which they think will lead to success, but throughout history it has been proven that ways devised by human beings have led to disaster. The latest example is the example of secularism. Secularism is the opposite of Islam. As was discussed in the last video, if a person is secular, that means he's not Muslim. If he's a Muslim, then he's not secular. These are two contradictions. There's no such thing as being a secular Muslim. A person who's living his life according to his own desires is obviously not a Muslim. And a person who's living his life according to the will or the desires of Allah is a Muslim. Now, living a life according to the commandments or desires of Allah requires a tremendous amount of sacrifice. And sacrifice means that one has to give up one's own desires. But this is for the benefit of the human being. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given examples in this life where people sacrifice for the sake of getting benefits later on. A child starts going to school at age 5 and keeps struggling for years and years, and then starts getting the benefits of his struggle, his effort. So he's sacrificing his time, the parents are sacrificing their money, all the effort that goes into the learning of the child is for the success of the child. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given examples to show people that for worldly success, you spend so many years and so much money to attain that. But when it comes to success that Allah has promised, you're not willing to make that sacrifice. So in order to benefit from the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing one has to do is to sacrifice one's own desires and submit to the commands of Allah. That is what Islam is, submission. We know from history that secularism replaced Christianity. First, Europe was Christian and it was living in dark ages. When it replaced Christianity with secularism, it brought material success, but you can now see the fruits of secularism. In the last century, there was World War I and World War II, and it said close to 100 million people died in just these two wars. These are the fruits of secularism. The countries that fought the wars, both these world wars, were not fighting for religion. They're fighting for their own glory, for their domination. And this is what secularism produces. It produces selfish people. It produces people who are not afraid of Allah, who have no fear of accountability. They don't have any sense of what might happen, because Islam teaches accountability, that a day will come when every single human being will stand before Allah and will have to answer for his deeds. Imagine these people, these leaders of the European countries who started and fought the wars. These are all secular democracies, and they were fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for their domination, for material benefits. They were not fighting for the truth. They were fighting for getting more material success for their people, and they had no thought of how it might appear for them on the day of judgment. So this is the result of secularism, that these so-called secular democracies brought unimaginable misery to human beings. Millions of people were killed as a result of the secular policies of these European countries, and including the United States. So Christianity was replaced by secularism, and secularism brought disaster, first in the form of the world wars, and then Korean War, and then Vietnam, and then the Gulf War, and it goes on and on and on. And the result of these secular democracies, wars, or what you might call the fruits of secularism, they are still having effects until the present day. You see what's happening in countries that are claimed. India is supposed to be the largest democracy in the world. It's supposed to be a secular country. But see how India is treating the minorities. This is the result of secular democracy. See how the so-called the only democratic state in the Middle East, Israel, and see how they're treating the Palestinian minority, and how they've ruined lives of millions of people. Nobody seems to be talking about the fruits of secular democracies. These cannot be blamed on religion. The gurus of secularism, they're all the time telling people about the great things secularism has achieved, but they're not telling how much misery they've brought to mankind. Now, if you look at what's going on in the world today, the pandemic, this pandemic has caused the greatest number of deaths in the United States and in Europe. If you look at the number of deaths, in these so-called secular democracies, there should be a lesson for all mankind. For years and years, we've been hearing how much progress the Western world has made under secularism. And here is the result of the progress of secularism. These countries which have achieved great advancement in science and technology are not able to contain a virus. And this is a way of Allah's way of teaching humanity that while you have made great progress in science and technology, you have gone down to a level below the animals. In this, when they talk of advancement, they're only talking of science. They're not talking about the advancement in humanity. So somebody should do some research and see how many millions of lives have been sacrificed for promoting secular democracy in the world. The countries that have been following these European and countries and the United States, they have been deceived by the material advancement, but see the results of the material advancement. These countries have developed such weapons that they can destroy the whole humanity. See what happened in the case of Japan. These were not fought for religion. Japan was not fighting for religion, and the United States were not fighting for religion. They're fighting for their own glory, their world domination, to show the world that they are the only superpower. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps reminding humanity that Allah alone is the only superpower. And they go out of line and start living their lives according to their own desires and according to their own this is what will happen. This is the result of that. So when are the Muslims going to learn from this? We keep hearing from Muslims from time to time, and these Muslims, it's probably wrong to call them Muslims because these are secular people who have little or no knowledge of Islam. But people think they are Muslims, and they teach in top universities, and they are indoctrinating, teaching the students the great achievements of secularism, the great achievements of democracy, the great achievements of keeping religion out of the affairs of the state. And obviously the people who study from them, they think that they're the last word. And this keeps going on and on. But the students who learn from these professors and from these experts, so-called experts, or the gurus of secularism, that they have brought immense misery, much more misery to mankind than was brought by the religious wars. All the religious wars put together did not cause so many deaths as the deaths have been caused by these secular, so-called advanced secular democracies of the world. I wish somebody would question these people who are talking about the achievements, how much misery they brought to mankind. And the interesting thing is that these gurus of secularism talk about human rights, and they talk about rights of they talk of equality and so on and so forth. But they don't look at the record, how much misery they brought. Islam is blamed for everything that goes wrong, but the way they present facts is as if whatever they are doing is right. Secularism has produced systems like capitalism, socialism, communism, all these isms that have come up as a result of the secular beliefs, just trying to achieve domination. These are all ways human beings have devised to dominate others, to oppress others, to become more wealthy, to become more powerful. All the efforts are made towards getting success in this world. And the irony is that they don't get success even in this world. The French tried, the British tried, the Germans tried, the Russians tried, the Americans tried, fighting with each other, the Italians and so on. And the result was they all ended up killing each other. All these wars that have been fought for centuries have been fought for only success in this life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps reminding people that a time is going to come when you will be questioned. On the day of judgment, everybody's record will be presented. He will be told to read his own record. Imagine Hitler being presented before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeing his record, how many millions of people were killed as a result of his actions. And see the record of the Americans, when they are the people who were responsible for all the wars, when their record is presented, how many millions of deaths will be on their account. But secularism doesn't even pay any attention to that. The people who teach these ideas or teach these philosophies, they don't have the slightest thought as to what might happen. They think the human beings are just like animals, just like living in the jungle, where the might is right. The strong prevail over the weak. So they've reduced the human being, the secularists have reduced the human being to the level of an animal. He's considered no more than an animal. That's why they're so much impressed by the theory of evolution, that human beings are no more than animals. They've evolved from some other species, and they are continuing to do what the other species are doing in the jungle. This is the irony. They're trying to civilize the human being, and they're talking of human rights, but in the process, they've made the human being no better than any animal. Whereas Islam teaches that a human being is not like an animal. A human being is accountable. He's Allah's finest creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the human being his finest creation because he has given him a sense of right and sense of wrong. The animals don't have a sense of right and wrong. They just act according to the nature. It doesn't matter to them whether a lion doesn't care whether the cow or the goat he eats belongs to him or it belongs to anybody else. The animals in the jungle don't have to worry about accountability, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made human beings accountable. A human being cannot take other people's property. A human being cannot kill other people. A human being is supposed to act in a responsible way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept this life to show him that there's a right way and there's a wrong way. But the secularists don't go into that discussion at all. They just think the human being is just a creature who has been put in this life to survive regardless of what he does. And if his self-interest comes first. Whereas Islam teaches humanity. It teaches people to be responsible for others. It's a life of duties and responsibilities. It teaches the responsibilities of the leaders to the people who is leading. It teaches the responsibility of the people to the leaders, responsibilities of the family, of the husband, of the wife, the children to the parents, and the parents to the children, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole complete system that secularism has no idea. It just talks about desires. It talks about how to satisfy your desires, whether they are done in the right way or the wrong way. The thinking is, if it makes you happy, it's good. If it's pleasing to your desires, it's good. It doesn't matter even if you go around naked in the street, it's okay. Human beings have been given a sense of shame. The animals don't have any sense of shame. The animals don't feel embarrassed going out without clothes. But a human being has been given a sense of shame by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you can see from the street and see what's happening. The human beings that, the clothes are coming off the body, they're becoming less and less. And there's no shame. People walk around in the streets as if there's nothing wrong in that. So how did this happen? It's all a result of secular beliefs. The secularism is all about satisfying your desires. If it feels good, then it's right. If it doesn't feel good, it's wrong. This is not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed it. Allah has given rules and regulations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed a way of conduct. This is the right conduct, this is the wrong conduct. And that is only for the benefit of mankind. The secular belief system is only about the present life. And even that it doesn't achieve. As was said before, the results of secularism has been destruction for mankind. All these nations that are fighting, the European nations, they were all whites, they were all Christians, and they were killing each other. Why were they killing each other? They were not killing each other because of religion. They were killing each other because they wanted more for their own people. Hitler wanted the German people to be dominant. The British people wanted the British to be dominant. And the French wanted the same for their people. The pride in race, the pride in their language, the pride in their culture. They were fighting for other gods, so to speak. They were all Christians, but They had this pride that we are the best. Islam doesn't teach that we are the best. Islam teaches humility. It teaches responsibility. It teaches accountability before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people should look at it that this is not a conflict between Christians and Muslims, Christians and Jews, Muslims and Jews. It's a conflict between a system given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a system devised by people because of their own desires. And we have seen the results of that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us understanding of Islam and to help us follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa akhir dawana in alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.